Hi there, Chris here with another useless review. I often call these useless reviews because sometimes I usually don't have time to, you know, thoroughly look over, and it's oftentimes just reactionary first impressions kind of thing. But this video will be a little bit different. Today we are having a look at the Aranthian Succession, Cinderak Burning. This is a supplement for Necromunda. It's Ashways, Necromunda, it's all of Necromunda. And this one is a little bit different. A big thank you to Games Workshop for sending me a review copy of this supplement for Necromunda, as I'm a big fan of Necromunda, and I try to fit in as many games as possible. And you know, it's a game I've thoroughly enjoyed. I've enjoyed it since the 90s. I used to run Ratskins. These days I run, well, my favorite right now is the Corpse Grinders. But anyway, book. So this supplement is really interesting. I've had a chance to digest it, so this review will not be quite as useless as the typical reviews that I do. I actually spent some time really reading through the lore and everything like that, and of course going over some of the stuff. So we're going to go over that. This video actually might not be quite as long as usual, because whenever I'm doing these first impressions, it's usually me just kind of going through it, but I am going to skim past some stuff because I do have the ability to retain a little bit of knowledge. Just a little bit, not much. But anyway, it is, how many pages is this book? It's like 300 and something? 100 and something? I can't remember now. But it's a nice hardcover book. 128 pages, I was way off. And hardcover book, typical. It's got the little bookmark and everything like that. Nice little nylon ribbon. And yeah, this one is really interesting, as basically it's kind of a Game of Thrones kind of vibe with this, and I'm in for it, as essentially this is all the houses and the clan houses all vying for control of Necromunda, and it's pretty darn cool. Yeah, so it's got tons of really nice artwork in it. Of course, everything we've come to love and enjoy about these kinds of supplements. The table of contents, the Aranthian, I'll say Aranthian from now on. Succession, Cinderak Burning, Age of Succession timeline, and Lords of Necromunda in the 41st millennium. Then by about page 55, we get the Succession campaign, which is very cool. It's part 1. Apparently they are planning to do more of this, and I'm in. After reading, like going through this and reading the background, I'm in. This is really interesting stuff. It's definitely a different turn for Necromunda. But anyway, setting up the campaign, running the campaign, and then sympathizers. Narrative scenarios begins at page 77. The fall of the Bad Zone's outpost, Gunk War, they come from below, out of the storm, assassin in the spire, escape from hive, Zultra, made up words, Barley showdown, Barley, anyway, Parley, I can read. House of Pain, Battle of the Riftways, Street Fight, Bar Defense, and Market Mayhem. Once we get to page 105, we have additional rules, additional Escher rules, Escher Cutter, Escher Hellion, crew, Goliath Road Thug, crew, Goliath Mauler, Escher Vehicle Gang Tactics, Goliath Vehicle Gang Tactics, Weapon Reference Chart, Weapon Upgrades, Vehicle Upgrades, Vehicle War Gear, Armor, Personal Equipment, Weapon Accessories, and Weapon Traits. And then by page 54 and then back to 73, we have Dramatis Personae? Anyway. Lady Hera, 13th daughter of Lord Helmar, Gorshiv, Hammerfist, Etheria and Styx, and Vespa, Minx, Moderna. That model is just really fantastic. I don't have that model. I think I might have to get it though, because I have an Orlok gang now, and I've got, you know, the Outriders or the buggies and stuff, and the model is just really hilarious. It's, you know, she's riding on the back, she's got a big missile launcher. It's great. Lots of mystery in the lore. Like the first page after the table of contents, it has this like garbled up transmission, And this book, kind of like Dark Uprising, where it tells a very, very dark tale within the Underhive, this one continues in that similar vibe. This is really quite dark for 40K. Not that it's like, you know, well, there's lots of murder and stuff, but anyway, as we get into the Aranthian Succession, gets into the lore. So basically, what is the Aranthian Succession? It's basically all these houses, the nobles and the clan houses, which is, you know, the Goliaths, the Eschers, Vansar, all these houses. They're all vying for control, because basically what ends up happening, as in Warhammer 40,000, the Great Rift that tears the Imperium apart and begins the Dark Imperium, that affects Necromunda as well. And basically what ends up happening is there's this massive blackout on the planet. And it's like, I can't remember if it's like 14 days where basically the hives are dark, and there's all sorts of uprisings from the corpse grinders and chaos cults to, you know, the nomads and the ash wastes. Everything is completely messed up on Necromunda. It is really, really dark and scary for Necromunda. And in fact, like, as far as novels and stories are concerned, you could tell a whole bunch of scary stories within this time frame, because it's very, very interesting, and you don't really see a lot of evolution of the narrative in the greater whole of these little sections of Warhammer 40,000. It's interesting that Warhammer 40,000, you know, we get this progression of time, and now we're starting to see that with Necromunda, and I'm in. So it's a whole bunch of reading. Darkness Descends, Hell in the Underhive, lots of great artwork. The Great Storm. There's also, yeah, once all the hives go down, there's this massive storm that comes over. Some of the hives are lost. So you can imagine like these massive hive cities, and people are trying to escape, and people are just killing each other or trying to defend against whatever. And the walls start failing. The defenses are down. All sorts of mayhem ensues once all the power is off. And yeah, it really lays out this really, really interesting narrative element, this background to the thing. And reading through the background and going over what's covered in the book, there is hints to what further stories they're going to tell within this greater narrative of this whole story of succession on Necromunda, which is very, very interesting. Again, I'm completely in. I'm already in. I already read all the background. I actually read the book this time. This short little story, The Assassin in the Spire, really interesting. Again, what I really enjoy about a lot of these narrative elements within these books and stuff is the building of the little details within the universe. The idea of cybernetics, and you know how the like Goliaths stim up, and the Eschers are all about poison, and you know all these different elements, and they're all really, really cool. Succession crisis, going over basically, you know, the nobles trying to take over things, opportunists and outlanders. Again, craziness ensues. Like this whole planet is just in chaos because all the hives, like you go outside the hives and it's a wasteland. It's kind of all this Mad Max type of craziness. You know, it's desolate and harsh. The environment is just, you know, awful. The planet is completely ruined. It just, you know, they're basically just extracting whatever they can from this planet, essentially, for, you know, millennia upon millennia. We're talking like, there's like, you know, they talk about like rivalries of the houses for like thousands of years, and, you know, these people getting comeuppance, you know, in these narratives here. Eve of war, and so far with the narrative, it basically centers mostly around the Goliath and Escher conflict, and the other houses kind of are background. Orlok in a big way as well, and then also another faction, the Rebel Lord, Lady Credo. And I don't think we have a model for this character, so I imagine by the time the next supplement comes out, we could see a model for this character. I don't recall a model for this character, but she's got really great artwork, and it's very, very interesting. It's really good. Of course, we get our good buddy Cal Jericho. He has a little bit to play in this. House Escher divided. Again, with all this chaos, again, we're looking at the Escher and the Goliaths, and, you know, they're vying for position into the noble houses. And then of course, as you know, as everybody has higher aspirations, somebody within your own group basically tries to cut you down, and it's backstabbing. Again, it's like, that's why I kind of was drawing the parallel between this and, like, Game of Thrones kind of thing, where these great houses are all vying for position within the greater whole of Necromunda and the Hive Primus sector, right? Who runs Cinderak City? So another quick little blurb narrative concerning the Goliaths and stuff. Blades and Chains. Like, it's got some really great lore. The battle for Cinderak City. And of course, it also reflects a lot of what they establish here in the background with the missions, in which we'll get to. We also get a nice background kind of character profile of the 13th daughter, Lord Hera Astera Vertera Helmar. It's a mouthful. And here's another one too. I don't know if this is in any other of the Necromunda books, and I don't recall it being in any of the older material, but basically they break down how time works on Necromunda. I mean, time might work differently, not time itself, but how we perceive time. Hours in a day, day cycles, and all that thing. And it actually lays it out. And then of course they give us this great big huge timeline of all the events that occur during this whole uprising, essentially. It's not really an uprising, as it's more or less just the houses all fighting each other and trying to, better themselves, and they're standing within the Imperium and, all this craziness, right? Get another one here, the line of succession for Lord Helmar. I can never say the name right. But yeah, again, tons of artwork. Then we get into some rules. By page 54, we get Lady Hera, 13th daughter of Lord Helmar. She's got a little blurb. It also has her profile characteristic, and basically she is one of the sympathizers. So during the campaign, if you're playing the campaign, you can whatever house you're playing, you can, you may draw upon sympathizers who were willing to help you during your cause. The closest thing I can think of is, it's kind of like back in the day with the Ratskins, and they wanted the one, I can't remember the character's name now, for the Ratskins. Leave a comment down below if you know which character I'm talking about. And basically, you didn't have to pay him, and you could just ask for his help. And it's kind of that kind of situation where you just kind of ask for the help. But she has a homing teleport, watch skulls, and petition. Yeah, the gang does not simply hire Lady Hera. Instead, a gang allied with an Imperial house may petition to have her join them. If a gang wishes to hire Lady Hera, the controlling player must roll a petition table for the house agents during the appropriate step of the pre-battle sequence. So if you're playing as one of the houses, you can try and petition and have her join the game. She's got a human profile, really good weapon skill, and she has a phase sword and a power spear. She's putting down a whole bunch of people. She's pretty darn good. She has backstab and dodge. She wears light carapace armor and a refractor field. It's pretty darn interesting. So then we get into the campaign. The campaign is pretty darn interesting. Basically tells us how about setting up the territories, everything like that. And then, of course, determining sympathizers. So if the number of players you have a corresponding amount of sympathizers generated, which is pretty interesting. So this actually kind of encourages a larger campaign setting, which I think is pretty darn cool. And then, of course, you can make a deck of sympathizers, depending upon, how many you have. And you basically just use a deck of cards, or if for any of you out there who have the Warhammer deck of cards, remember the black ones that had that nice embossing on them? You can use those too. That'd be really, really cool. You are all about your 40K in that case, right? So anyway, for example, like Ace of Diamonds, Prometheum Guild sympathizers, Two of Diamonds, Water Guild sympathizers, Slave Guild sympathizers, Corpse Guild sympathizers, Guild of Coin sympathizers. Like, it goes on. There's a whole bunch of sympathizers and a whole bunch of benefits that the sympathizers provide. So it's really, really interesting. Then we get into issuing and accepting challenges, scenario selection table. It's a 2d6 roll. Running the campaign, you have 3 cycles: the Great Darkness, Downtime, and then the Spark of Rebellion. And if you've read through the narrative portion of the book, or the background portion of the book, that all kind of makes sense, and how, you know, everything kind of transpires. The Great Darkness phase, it's 3 cycles. The first part of the Succession campaign follows the gangs as they try to consolidate their position while cut off from their house and survive the Great Darkness. During this phase, the following rules apply, and then it lists off a bunch of rules. 2, the Downtime, it's only 1 cycle. So basically, the cycle, spoiler, Necromunda, a cycle is basically a day. The effects of Downtime: basically, fighters recover, captives are returned, experienced Jews and prospects are promoted, fresh recruitment, and then declare allegiance. And then, of course, it goes through all explaining how all that works. Choosing sides, the benefits of an imperial house, emissaries of House Helmar. During the pre-battle sequence, roll a d6. On a 4+, the gang may recruit one of the following dramatis persona for no credit cost, ignoring any restrictions on who the dramatis persona will join. They will leave at the end of the battle regardless of any other rules. And so we have, I think the name is Sinus, Chemist Mother. She's part of the House of Blades, and you'll find her rules there. And then Lady Hera, which is in this book. And then next is Deep Pockets. When generating income from sympathizers, the gang adds an additional d6 times 10 credits to their stash. Pretty darn handy, just, you know, getting one of these sympathizers to help you out in your cause, right? Benefits of Unaligned. Look out for your own during the pre-battle sequence. On a 4+, the gang may recruit one of the following dramatis persona for no credit cost, ignoring the blah, 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 blah. And that's Gorshiv Hammerfist or Margot Moderna Drissia Roadboss. She's in the House of Iron. Or Vespa Minx Moderna in this book. Pretty darn cool. We stand for ourselves. If the opposing gang's leader is taken out of action by a friendly model, the model gains an extra D3 experience points in addition to any experience gains. And then take a side. During the post-battle sequence, the gang may choose to align themselves with either Lady Credo's rebellion or the Imperial House. If the gang only controls gang sympathizers, then they must choose to align themselves with one of the factions. Pretty darn cool. So Lady Credo, in the background material, she's playing a very big part in this whole this whole chaos, essentially. And yeah, so basically you get some special rules if you're part of her rebellion. During the pre-battle sequence on a 4+, you can get access to these personae, Etheria and Styx, and Lady Credo, Rebel. Oh, she's in the Book of the Outcast. Okay, do we have a model for it? I didn't really. I've read the book, but I mean, like, I've read the book. But now I gotta look at the website now. Stars in the Ascendancy. Each time the gang wins a battle, they gain 1 extra reputation in addition to any granted by the scenario. And then side battles. Balancing Lady Credo. The Spark of Rebellion phase is 3 cycles. There is no restriction to adding more models to the gang roster. Items in the trading post and black market revert to their usual rarity settings. The pitch black rules are no longer automatically in effect for all Sector Mechanicus and Zone Mortalis battles. Ash Waste battles take place during the season of Ash. Only controlled sympathizers may be fought over and claimed as a reward by the victor of the gang battle. So it's really, really cool. Then, of course, winning. You get Champion of House Helmar, Champion of the Rebellion, Survivor, Hoarder of Coin, Leader of Men, and Legendary status. Yeah, and then, of course, we get into the sympathizers, and you have the Prometheum Guild sympathizers. You have the Slave Guild sympathizers, the Corpse Guild sympathizers, Guild of Coin sympathizers, Iron Guild sympathizers, Imperial Imposter sympathizers, Cold Trader sympathizers, Narco Lord sympathizers, Rogue Factura sympathizers, Fallen House sympathizers, Psi Syndica sympathizers, House Catalus sympathizers, House Eulanti sympathizers. I'm sure that's how it's said, right? Eulanti? I don't know. House Green sympathizers, House Co-Iron sympathizers, House Ranlow sympathizers, House Ty. Again, like I said, there's a whole bunch of sympathizers in here, and they all have rules. Like, okay, I'll read one here in a sec. Electro Guild sympathizers. So basically, Electro Guild sympathizers, rivals to the Promethean Guild. The Electro Guild offer very power of the hives to its allies and gangs, and power drawn from the great heat sinks themselves. Boons. While they control the sympathizers during the pre-battle sequence, a gang may choose to not have the pitch black rules apply for the duration of the battle. That's kind of a good one, because fighting in the dark in Necromunda is not really fun, especially if you rely on range. If you're up close and personal kind of army, well then, or gang, then you know, all the power to you, really. Then during the Spark of Rebellion phase, additionally, the gang that controls these sympathizers add D6 times 10 credits to its stash. Again, benefits. It's usually monetary, but there's also some side stuff, right? Then you got the Air Guild sympathizers, Venator sympathizers, Dregs of the Hive sympathizers, Wasteland Scrapper sympathizers, Second Best Smuggler sympathizers, Heretic sympathizers, Explorator sympathizers. So there's a lot of options and many different ways you can go about it. And again, each of those little things adds another layer of nuance to the game and all these battles. And what I find really interesting once we get into talking about the scenarios is how it's almost like Horus Heresy in the regard that we're kind of replaying historical moments rather than normal Necromunda, which is kind of telling the story of your gang. In this supplement, in this expansion, we're kind of taking a step back and exploring the story, how it plays out. And again, it's very, very interesting. Next, on page 73, we have Gorshiv Hammerfist. He's the bounty hunter. He's got all sorts of stuff. He's expensive. You got to pay for him. He's Goliath. He's tough. And he's up close and personal kind of fighter. He's got bold charge, walk it off, and he wears flak armor. Not that he really needs it. I'm not going to hurt him too often. You basically have to focus this guy down. But anyway, Aethera and Styx. We've seen the models previewed for this as of time of filming. It might even be up for pre-order as of posting of this video. But anyway, really, really fantastic model. Of course, you know, you can petition this character. They cost no creds to bring in. It's just you have to meet the criteria for asking for her for help. Vespa Minx Moderna. Again, really, really, really fun. The vehicle she drives is like standard. It's not like super armored or anything like that, or super fast, or, you know, anything special in that regards, other than the fact that she's rocking a rocket launcher and she's going to mess stuff up, and she is got a good ballistic skill. Yeah, she's good. She's a good character. For any Orlok wants to take her, oof. She is a bounty hunter that can only be taken by the House Orloks. Narrative scenarios. Again, like I mentioned, these scenarios are more like what you see from Horus Heresy, where you're kind of replaying the mission. Now, you can play it like a normal Necromunda scenario, you know, just telling the tale of your gang, or you can do it more like a recreation. And I think that is really, really interesting. So for the Fall of the Bad Zones Outpost, it has a attacker and defender. It lays out all, you know, how you're going to deploy, what you're taking, compositions, you know, your gang tactics, how you're deploying. It gives you all your victory conditions, your rewards, credits, experience, and reputation, home turf advantages, and all that stuff. But if you want to tell part of the narrative story within this supplement, rather than just simply use it as, you know, a new scenario to play the game with, in this Fall of the Bad Zones Outpost, the fall of the Sump City, if players wish, they may use this scenario to represent the fall of Sump City as the Eschers and their allies fight for Sump City against Chaos Cultists, corrupted gangs, and the beasts of the Underhive. Eventually, they are forced to escape onto waiting boats that set off charges in the city's foundations to sink it. Yeah, again, there's all sorts of chaos in Necromunda. Like, hive cities are being destroyed. Like, it is grim for the planet. Just a few days. Imagine just an entire planet just in chaos for a few days, no power, nothing. People are just eating each other. Like it's craziness. It's really interesting. So basically, the defenders should be a House Escher gang. The attackers gang is made up of a mix of Hela Chaos cultists, corpse grinder cults, and exotic beasts. Exotic beasts do not have to have an owner and will operate independently. And then the Endless Horde rule is in effect. What is the Endless Horde rule? In each end phase, any of the attackers, gangers, Jews, or exotic beasts that have been taken out of action return to the battlefield by being placed into base contact with the attacker's board edge. So basically, as soon as somebody's out, you can pull them and bring them onto the table again. And it's just to represent the fact that you're just fighting this non-stop battle against waves upon waves of attackers. And it's just like, can you imagine just chaos cultists and corpse grinders, for God's sake? Corpse grinders just screaming at you as they're chasing you around the board. Oh man, it's scary. It's scary. Gunk War, again, typical Necromunda scenario type stuff. Gives you all the the victory conditions, deployments, all that stuff. But then you can play it as the narrative. The defense of the two tunnels. Players wish they may use this scenario to represent the defense of the two tunnels as corpse grinder cults invade the settlement, attempting to consume all within. The Gunk Queen and her brother desperately attempt to defend the industrial gunk works by flooding the surrounding streets with gunk and setting it alight. In order to do this, make the following changes. The defender takes an outcast gang, which must include Gain, the Gunk Queen, Gorvos, and its leader, Vunder Gorvos, as champion. Rules for both of these can be found in the Necromunda Book of Judgment. The attacker takes Corpse Grinder Gang. Pretty darn cool. So if you want to play it more like historical and, play out the narrative, yeah, you totally can. Like, again, this is different from the usual stuff. And I like the inclusion of basically you can play this as a normal scenario, or you can play it, as part of the story and just recreate these elements from what you read in the background. And I like that. I like that a lot. They come from below, and then basically it is the background is the defense of Dust Falls. And yeah, like the scenarios go on. There's quite a few scenarios. I can't remember how many. It's like 10. Out of the Storm, and then also you can recreate Assault on Cinderak City. You can Assassin in the Spire, and then you can recreate the strike at Lord Helmar, which is pretty darn cool. Escape from Hive Zaltra. Jeez, these names. Daring Breakout. If players wish, they may use the scenario to represent Lord or Lady Credo leading a group of rogue Vansar to rescue an unknown prisoner. In order to do this, make the following changes. The attackers should be Vansar Gang, including Lady Credo. The defenders should be Palatine Enforcers Gang. See? Pretty straightforward, right? Pretty straightforward. I'd imagine, like, you could probably, if you had an already existing, say, Palatine Enforcer Gang roster, you could bring that, right? Or you could just generate, take your 1,000 creds and generate a gang and then play out the scenario, right? You can just play it out one time. But anyway, Parlay Showdown. It's the War of Crones, as if the recreation. Basically, it's between Lady Credo and everybody. House of Pain. Recreation is Fist of the Over-Tyrant. This one is a small scenario. This basically is just like put two guys against each other and watch what happens. Battle of the Rift Ways. And you can recreate the Assault on Gate 17. Basically, if players wish, they may use the scenario to represent the Goliath attack on Gate 17. In order to do this, make the following changes. The attacking gang should be a Goliath gang, predominantly made up of Goliath maulers. Defending gang should be a mix of Escher and Orlok fighters with a large number of Escher cutters and Orlok wreckers. This is really, really cool. This is really, really cool. Street fight, or you can recreate the streets of Cinderak City. bar defense. Bar defense. There's a little bit in the stories in the background for the bar defense, but basically it's the shootout at the Lucky Six. And this one's kind of cool because basically the defender uses Margot Moderna and 3 Orlok road captains to represent Mindy, Vivian, and Vespa Moderna. The attacker uses the Goliath gang, and the Moderna sisters ignore any wound taken on a 3+ instead of a 5. That's hilarious because in the story, like, they basically because they're drunk, essentially. That's why they can ignore wounds. Market Mayhem. Aethera's last stand is the recreation. Basically, the defender uses Escher gang, including Aethera and Styx, and the attacker uses Goliath gang, including Gorshiv Hammerfist. Yeah. So that's the scenarios. Again, really cool. We get into the additional rules. Additional rules include the Escher Cutter. Basically, it's more of like a jet bike. It's not really a vehicle per se, like the other bigger stuff. You get the Escher Hellion crew, and then you get all the tables, all their upgrades, everything like that. Yeah, because basically you do the custom vehicle, Ridge Runner, Rock Grinder, or Wolf Quad. But yeah, the Escher Cutter though is really darn cool. It has a few options. You can take grenade launchers with Frag and Crack, take twin-linked heavy stubbers, twin-linked plasma guns. It's kind of surprising too. The twin-linked heavy stubbers is the most expensive. You know, considering, I guess because plasma guns really, like you're gonna run out of ammo and what I mean, stuff like that. So, yeah, it's pretty darn interesting though. Pretty darn interesting. Then we get over to the Goliaths, the Road Thug crew, where basically they can take a custom vehicle, Goliath Mauler, Ridge Runner, Rock Grinder, or Wolf Quad. And of course, it lays out all of their, basically, their skill access and all that stuff. The Goliath Mauler, we get the rules for that. It is a vehicle. It's not like, despite looking like a regular kind of motorbike, it is a vehicle proper, heavily armored. It's pretty heavy. It's not terribly expensive. It's a little bit more than a Ganger, but anyway. And it can take vehicle upgrades. It can take a blade of armor, extra armor, reinforced armor, drive upgrades, a redundant drive system, tire claws, engine upgrades, engine shell, gliss injector. The only thing is it's weapons. It can only really have the grenade launchers or bolters, I believe. Yeah, there's only really 2 guns it can take. But either way, I mean, it's still pretty darn good. As we continue on, by page 110, we get into the Escher gang, vehicle gang tactics. And you get all that. Of course, you can also pick up the deck of cards. Goliath vehicle gang tactics. Get the cards. Makes it easier. Pretty picks. Page 117. We get some color guides. Some inspiration for, basically how to paint these things up and, stuff like that. I do really enjoy the Goliath Maulers, though. They are pretty darn cool. And then, of course, Vespa. I really enjoy this model. It's too darn funny. It's too darn funny. Then we get into the weapon reference chart, page 120. Then 121, we get into vehicle upgrades and just gives us all the rules. Vehicle war gear, armor, field armor, personal equipment, weapon accessories. Again, it's really kind of short lists, as it doesn't, I guess you don't really feel a need to reprint everything that's available in Necromunda in this book, because they're assuming that, I guess, you have the main rule book and other things like that. Of course, they cover blaze, gas, some of the special rules, knockback limited, mastercrafted power, toxins, twin linked, versatile, and all that. But yeah, that is, in a nutshell, the Aranthian Succession. I don't know even know if I say that right. Aranthian? I see it as Aranthian. Aranthian? Cinderak Burning. This is book 1. This is chapter 1 of this narrative. And I'm looking forward to more supplements for this, because this is really darn cool. I like what they've done here. I like the multiple ways you can play the scenarios. I really enjoy the background element to this, setting up the setting of this whole story, essentially. And yeah, it's really, really darn cool. Now I got to look up or Lady Credo, because the artwork makes the character look really interesting, and I'm wondering now if she's like her artwork matches the character. And so yeah, of course, Lady Hera. I don't know if there's a model for that, although we have already seen previews for Aethera, and Styx. So yeah, thank you to Games Workshop for sending me a review copy of this supplement. Big thank you to my patrons. Without your support, these videos would not be possible. If you're considering Patreon support, click the link in the description below. And a huge thank you to everybody who does, and a huge thank you to all my continuing patrons. Take care of your brushes, they'll take care of you, and I will see you in the next video, or useless review, or unboxing, or the shorts that I do, or the painting tutorials, or the other goofy stuff I make. Alrighty, I'll see you guys later.